A raw bulk of elements compressed together. Life wavers on a knife's edge. The heroic poetry from the classical works of Ovid and Homer have given us lustrous visions of the Aegean seas. But when the conquering armies of the Mediterranean reached the North Sea, a new titan faced them. Salt-sprayed, silver-skied, and bitter cold. This was the domain of thunder gods. And of tempestuous waters where Vikings were to carve a rough way of life through the merciless maelstroms. The North Sea is frosty in temperament, turbulent and frigid. But on halcyon days you can find life churned up by its tides, thriving between two worlds, land and sea. This is a closer look at life's battle for survival in its own home. It's a tribute to those that live life on the edge. A cornucopia of wildlife can be found off the Isles of eastern Britain. The name Farne means Islands of the Wanderers. They're an archipelago of small rocks, regularly battered by wind and waves. Wanderers such as grey seal pups take shelter here, hauling out onto the outcrops of rock during low tide. They are Britain's largest carnivore, and nearly half the planet's population live here. But half of all the pups born won't make it to their second year. Severe weather can wash away a whole generation. Despite this, they've adapted to life here, evolving a thick layer of blubber, which a mother's milk helps kickstart. On hot days, however, this can cause overheating, so they chill out in the water. A seal's blubber streamlines it, making them agile acrobats under the surface, where they spend 80% of their time. Specially adapted whiskers, known as vibrissae, sense vibrations in the water, and eyes that work in low light help them hunt. Pups live near the top of the food chain, but not quite the top. Once independent, they take to the sea alone, where they might be predated by orca, or maybe even one of their own. In recent years, young pups have washed up on the shore with spiral lacerations on their bodies. The cause was unknown until recently. Cannibalism. Older males may not have won breeding rights this season, so it won't care for a pup that isn't its own. The pup must expend all of its energy to get away from danger. Made it, just by a flipper. Luckily, it was just the local bully this time. Bass Rock, the Alcatraz of Scotland, home to the planet's largest colony of gannets. They are the North Atlantic's largest seabird, and congregate on the sheer cliffs, seemingly unfazed by the lethal landscape. Many seabirds are able to sense a change in the air pressure, so when harsh storms come their way, they can navigate to safety before it hits. Using routes owned over years, they fly back to sites with the most consistent abundance of prey. Their shining performance is the way they forage for food. Once they find it, they show off their perfectly engineered aeronautics. Diving from 25 meters at up to 100 miles per hour, their stream-like trident shapes have little resistance when they hit the surface. Front-facing binocular vision lets them find prey from above, and once in the water, they refocus to chase this quarry. A watertight beak prevents a face full of seawater, and air cushions under the skin protect their delicate bodies from the impact. These huge birds don't land so gracefully, and this can cause a stir when they do. Fights break out, and sometimes even chicks can get caught in the fray. But a nice gift seems to help stop the squabble. Ocean wanderers visit North Sea isles to breed and raise young on a stable ground. Puffins arrive in the spring, reuniting with lifelong mates. They begin preparation. Puffins build their nests inside burrows, out of the way of wind and water. Chicks grow up fast with constant attention from parents and a safe space to mature. Puffins have waterproof feathers, allowing them to stay warm and float on the surface. They spend most of their day preening them. Once they're ready to go fishing, they flap their wings and dive under, returning with a bill filled with sand eels, held in place by sharp ridges on their beaks. However, a new threat has begun to wreak havoc through puffin colonies. Tree mallow and rats. Introduced by man onto the islands, they can decimate a year's generation of pufflings. Fortunately on the farms there's been a recovery. Guillemots who share cliffs with puffins and gannets are highly sociable. So much so that they only breed once the colony is loud enough. When they feel safe that there's enough friends around, and everyone's completely comfortable around each other. They lay one piriform egg, adapted in a way that prevents it from rolling over. A very handy adaptation for a bird that doesn't build a nest. The species in the North Sea have adapted to a harsh world. But with change in the wind, human influence is taking its toll on the balance of life. Fishing nets cast off cause fatalities. Oil spills and pollution devastate seabirds' health. In the past 20 years, sea surface temperatures have risen significantly. Which impacts food chains from the bottom up. If plankton blooms are out of sync with the migration of birds, their primary source of food will not be there to refuel them. Events such as this will only increase with the impacts of the climate crisis, unless we make immediate changes to the way we live today.